Thank you, 5440, or as I like to call them in the state of brevity, 94.
Hi. How are you all? Are you good?
We're great.
We're great. Yeah.
Things are just hunky-dory.
Things are fine. I'm just gonna so Wesley's draw, let's just draw for a little bit more, because this is our last official class, like teaching class, I don't know. But yeah, stunning drawings. Wow. So good. Amazing. Okay, so this is so Monday, one of you, and if you ask for something, we'll totally give it to you. So we're enthusiastically going because a student asked us if we would be up for talking a little bit about our careers, and how we ended up in this box, in this house on 25 Division Street. And we, it's flashing. We need batteries.
Stat!
Now!
You just gave our address out on the interweb.
Oh, that's okay. Anyway, so we'll do that on Monday, and what we'll try to do is come up with big takeaways, big things, because what we've realized is together, we make a whole person with all the privilege in the world, but separate, we've experienced some different barriers, and we're going to share them with you. So, yeah. Aw, thanks. You're lovely, all of you. This has been a really good semester for us in terms of teaching, and oh my goodness.
Yes, specifically in terms of teaching. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to try and change the batteries.
Which means we're going to mute
and
for a second.
And you're going to tell me if you can still hear us.
Okay.
That was literally a Jacobsian. Can I help?
Can I help? Well, it's like opening up the hood of a car,
know, so
right? Everybody wants to help. Let me.
Can you hear us bicker? Are we bickering live?
Okay.
Oh yeah, it is still picking it up.
Yeah, it totally is. It's fine. I just lost the game. No, Wesley, dude, that's fantastic. Emma's great too, though.
No, there are multiple winners in this game.
Multiple winners. Check out the duck.
Yep, Emmer Ducks.
That's a classic.
My brother, who is an ornithologist and a statistician, wants to publish a book called Ducks, who cares? He's more of a songbirdy kind of guy.
Yeah.
Whereas I want to publish a book, Birds.
Meh. What's the
Wait till you see the little things.
Shout out, thank you to Squirrel Life. It's been getting quite a media hit lately. I'm super proud.
I put a shout out into a program that had a feature on your garden from last summer.
You mean a feature on ants?
It had a feature on your garden, though.
Let me get back to the Squirrel Life thing, though, because you are all part of it. By design, you're all part of it, and we're super grateful that you are doing it enthusiastically. And we've seen lots of evidence of that. It's wonderful. And we are always happy to accept volunteers over the summer. I am taking a list. I've got quite a few of you here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to design some volunteer activities based on how many of you and where you are over the summer. So I imagine that I'll come up with some remote ways of you volunteering for Squirrel Life if you want to kind of do some walks, have a reason to do them. You're more than welcome to engage with us and with Liz about Squirrel Life, and we'll see if we can come up with some meaningful things, at various levels of participation over the summer. So if you want to do that, that's great. Let me know. We'll sign you up. I will at some point get my shit together and get a plan in place.
No, that's kind of like a statement of growing up. I will grow up. Yeah, sure, someday. I will get my shit together. More or less.
It'll be fine. Wonderful. You're hungry. Somebody's hungry.
It's me too.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I'm not.
Really?
Yeah.
What'd you eat?
The rest of the leftovers that you started, which might have been 2 servings, and
I'm
not hungry.
I didn't take 2 servings. Okay. Cool. Yeah, those were delicious.
Yeah.
Okay. What else? You're all
your
wonderful.
garden.
My garden. Yeah, check out my garden in the show that Smith was in recently. It's actually, like, I laughed out loud. It is very funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did a really good job.
Yeah. So
I
check
had a
it
link.
out.
I don't know where it went.
Where's the link?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. We'll pop the link in the chat. It's available on Gem, CBC Gem. It's like free streaming. And it is called Frick, I Love Science.
Frick, I Love Nature.
Sorry, Frick, I Love Nature. It's written and hosted by improv experts.
Two different improv experts from
Very funny.
Edmonton, Alberta.
Yeah, so shout out to them because they came to our house over the summer and they got
COVID
Smith.
tested up the yin yang.
Yeah, they got Smith to do a bunch of really funny things.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Smith was probably going to do funny things anyhow, and they happened to be there to film and say, "Can you do that again?
Professionally
Can you
funny.
do that again? Yeah. Can you do that again?"
Okay, cool. Are you ready? Are you done coloring?
I'm trying to get through the ads on Gem so I can.
So you can put the link in the...
so I can show your garden.
Okay. Yes, my garden is there.
That was the exclamation. That was the look at my garden.
Okay. I'm going to screenshot this because awesome, and then I'm gonna have to delete it. I hate that. Okay. Oh, folks are still coming in. Annotate, save, and ready. I'm gonna clear. Okay, clear. Sorry. Okay.
Look at that garden.
That's my garden right there.
Look at that garden.
And that's
It's on the TV.
and that's my spouse. But my garden.
But let's be clear.
Let's be clear.
You built one. You support the other.
Okay, cool. So last day, we're going to just throw some concepts at you that we just didn't integrate into the course. A couple of things to clarify. I feel like they are pretty well developed on the pre-lecture stuff, but we just wanted the opportunity to say some silly things about it. So we will, and hopefully it'll help kind of tie it all in.
Somebody's making spring rolls.
Oh, yummy.
I interrupted that
Cool.
statement of how we're getting online to
Okay.
like, oh, I could eat those.
And then we'll kind of integrate everything by looking at the world and applying what we've learned. And then we will say, that's all, folks.
There'll be countercurrent flow.
They will, yeah, there will.
I think there's a picture of me in a kayak, which will make me happy.
Okay.
That's why I put it in.
But first, homework. Whether or not, well, it's going to be a little bit challenging if you didn't do the homework to answer the polling question that we have. So, you know what? You want to just really quickly go through the homework?
I think that's a good idea.
Are you ready? Like, we'll just kind of speed through this homework.
Like, not us saying it, but we're going to ask you to go
and like to write stuff. Okay, so let's do it line by line. Is that okay? And we'll just get messy. Okay. So, mammoth, ice fish, endotherm, ectotherm. What is it? Sweet. Good. Yes. Nice and easy, right? Temperature regulator or conformer? Which ones?
But R or a C, yeah.
Good.
Are you a Roman or a Catholic?
Yes? Is that...
No, they're the same.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was
Well,
like.
not all Catholics are Roman Catholics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And not all Catholics are Roman and not all Romans are
Not all
Catholic.
Catholics are Roman, I think.
Okay, super, good.
Anyhow.
The trait discussed in class about the case study. So we presented 2 case studies. What was the trait, more or less?
One rhymed with bleibobloben.
Okay, super. Good. Lack of hemoglobin. The other one was hemoglobin. Good. That's totally fine. The biological level of organization at which this trait exists.
Ooh, now we're getting into it.
Sweet. Cool. Yeah, good question with the cellular because they don't have red blood cells at all.
So it's
no,
kind of
you're
both.
Not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. It's fine. Okay, the time scale of the trait in question. Is it acute, chronic, or evolutionary?
I mean, mammoth are cute. This is
They
true.
are cute. Sweet. Yes. Good. Perfect. Evolutionary. The type of evolution that we are talking about in the context of the mammoth hemoglobin or the ice fish lack of hemoglobin.
Aha.
Aha. Look at you. Okay, are these things adaptive or non-adaptive? It was kicking butt. Oh, push pinders going in. Okay.
Get up.
Okay. I like the sort of adaptive, non-adaptive in the ice fish because depending upon when you were reading the papers, it was kind of thought of as adaptive. But most recent and updated is that it is non-adaptive. Yeah. Hot off the presses. Okay. Now, is the and I've texted it. I wrote the wrong words. Is the trait the result of environmental constraint or environmental facilitation?
Somebody could cross it out.
Yeah, we could cross it out for sure. Cross out adaptation for me, please, and put in the word trait.
Thomas the Trait.
Yeah. What do we think? Thank you, Marie. Wonderful. What do we think? Constraint, facilitation. Are we good with that? I'm good with that.
Yeah.
It's good. Okay.
I'm just enjoying this. I think it's going very well.
Yeah. Okay. Consequences for the species with respect to climate change. So, mammoth, in the context of all of the things about hemoglobin that we've talked about, what will happen if we increase the environmental temperature by 8 degrees? Ice fish.
They will still be extinct.
Well, at the time of the mammoth, what would have happened? Ice fish. What would happen if we increase the water temperature by 2 or 3 degrees?
Bad. Class just ended.
Yeah, is it over?
I can hear it.
Oh, our kids.
Yeah.
Okay, super. Yeah, good. So, okay, who's going to suffer first more? Ice fish or mammoth?
Are mammoth alive in this scenario?
Yeah, they're alive in the scenario. Okay. Mammoth. So who's going to crash for? Oh, Nathaniel's like putting us. Oh yeah, you're all putting stars there. X's. I see them now behind my screen. Okay. Lydia's going for ice fish. Yeah. I
think we said we've had 4 screens. We actually have 5 screens here.
We have a lot of screens right here. Okay.
Yeah.
So the ice fish is definitely the one that is more at risk. I mean, it would be catastrophic, right? And you've said here, only facilitated in super cold water, couldn't carry enough oxygen. It could be like within a day or two, the whole thing could be like they could be wiped out, right? The mammoth, I mean, you've got the mechanisms there that are interesting, right? There may be a difference in the efficiency of the hemoglobin. It may be too hot, but I wouldn't imagine that it would have been so catastrophically hot that like all mammoths would have been wiped out with a few degrees increase.
Yeah. I think
That
it would
being
have been,
said, over time, right?
Yep.
Sure.
Sweaty, stressed mammoth.
Yeah. But like immediately catastrophic would be the ice fish. Well done. Okay. So with that in mind. Clear. And I will prepare a question if I've got it here for you. Ice fish. No.
Last lecture.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. And I will make it easier to read. There you go. Okay. I don't remember the answer to this one.
In a town where I was born.
How we doing?
I was, yes. That was me singing. I would say since the what was the Peter Jackson documentary called that you opted out of? I've had Beatles on the brain much of the winter.
We were...
Get Back?
Oh, the Beatles one. Okay. Yeah. I did opt out of it.
Yeah, thank you. Get Back is right. Thank you, Sora.
Yeah.
It's been in my brain.
Okay. Super. You're doing great. Well done. I'm going to stop it because lots of you have already clicked in. Share results. The answer is yes, you got it. Good. Super. Fantastic. Okay. Moving on. Are we good? Stop sharing.
I think we're better than good.
Is the answer for those of you who are
Choice
watching.
3.
Yeah, the recording here. I'll put it on the screen so those watching the recording can see the distribution. You've done very well. Good. Moving on. Okay. Can we move on?
That is the only way to go.
Forwards. Okay. Homeo viscous adaptation. Now, you've read about this, right?
This should be a band
And this
name.
is really just an opportunity for Smith and I to pretend that we're fatty acids. That's it. Because it's funny.
Let's just say that Smith goes along with it because you really like it.
I really like it because I did my PhD on fatty acids, and I think fatty acids are freaking fantastic because to me there is this absolutely logical connection between form and function that I just totally appreciate. It just like makes my brain so happy to think about like the structure of molecules and how that can lead to function rather than just, you know, the chemical composition and stuff like that. So anyway, okay. Homeoviscous adaptation. It's a thing. We know a little bit about it. There are some really interesting unknowns, right? So you'll probably start asking about endotherms and all of these things, and the answer is no, but okay, but maybe, but who knows, right? There's not a lot of folks that are looking at the fatty acid composition of the phospholipid bilayer of your cellular membranes. And there are lots and lots of different fatty acids that can go into anything that is built of fat or fatty acid elements, right? So when I was doing my PhD, I was looking at 26 different types that were defined by the length of the chain, of the carbon chain of each of the molecules, and the number of double bonds within them, right? So the nomenclature was really simple. So 18:1 would be 18 carbons long with one double bond. 18:2 would be 18 carbons long with two double bonds, that kind of thing, right? And there were, I think, up to 18:3, and then you start at 20 for some reasons, like odd numbers, not popular. So anyway, there are some fatty acids that are absolutely phenomenal. There's one called EPA, which is 20 and then 5 with 5 double bonds. It packs a lot of energy. And so it's kind of preferentially sought out in the ecosystem by things that have to do endurance exercise like migration, which is amazing. But what we have fatty acids, we have these multiple functions, right? So they can be energetic. We can use them to store energy and then burn, right? So we burn fat in order to be able to move around. Or they can be structural. And when we're talking about the homeoviscous adaptation, we're talking about structural fatty acids. So we use them like bricks instead of like hamburgers. Okay. But you can use them for both, which is another amazing thing that nature has evolved, these like multifunctional systems, right? Humans suck at that. We always just invent something new, whereas nature tends to reuse things. Anyway, I digress. We're going back to the original point. Homeoviscous adaptation basically takes advantage of the structural differences of the fatty acids to maintain the fluidity of cell membranes. Okay, So, you ready?
Yep.
Okay. Should I go to the next slide just in case? What's the next slide?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, here we go. Stand up. Okay. So basically, if we are fatty acids, come right next to me. Okay, we're fatty acids in a lipid bilayer, right? We're kind of like floating around. Okay, and we're like super like not double bonded, right? We're
That's
like,
right.
okay. It means that there's not a lot of space. We don't actually take up a lot of space as individuals, right? And things are pretty tight.
Yep.
Okay, but imagine if I got a double bond, right? If I got a double bond, I would be like this. And all of a sudden, I now take up actual more space, right? Right here. It means that like my occupying of more space means that the cell membrane itself is more fluid. You get it? So what you want is lots of cell membranes taking up lots of space, right? And if you think about things like cholesterol, do you know what cholesterol does? It like sits there in your cell membranes and it makes things really rigid, right? Things can't pass through. There's not a lot of space, extra spaces, right, for things to pass through. And so what you want is lots of double bonds, keeping everything nice and fluid, so that things can pass along the cell membranes, because if they are rigid, things aren't going to move through them. Okay? So the problem with cold is that is a low energy situation and things tend to be more rigid, okay, even just because of the cold. So the Homeo viscous adaptation is basically the sort of overrepresentation of double bonded fatty acids in the cell membrane to account or to compensate for the increase in rigidity that temperature can impose, with an increase in the fluidity that double bonds can impose. It's cool. I like it. It's fun. To me, it makes sense.
Kinky tails.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. It's not one of those it depends things. Like it's cool.
This is a dependable thing.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so that's homeoviscous adaptation. There was always, when I was traveling in Antarctica with folks who were not as familiar with biology as other folks, the most common question that I would get is, why don't penguin feet freeze? Right? It's kind of an obvious question, right? Like it's kind of they're walking on ice. Why are they not walking around with little blocks of ice on their feet? And it's not a bad question. It's maybe just not quite the right question. Because the answer is they do, kinda. Maybe the sort of better, it's not the better question, but say the more biological question would be, why don't penguins freeze, right? If they're in contact with the ice like that, why doesn't their core freeze? Okay. And I think we've already talked about this. I think I've already told you that penguins,
Power.
I've done this before, right? You've seen this penguin up close.
They've been here for
They've been here.
21
I must have.
hours
Like I
in
just
this
say
room.
it all the time, so I
But
assume
no,
that you
say it
know.
again.
Okay,
Repetition
so
helps.
penguins are really good at preserving their core temperature, right? And so are a lot of Arctic things, right? And there's a trade-off, cost benefit associated with that. So penguins have a reputation for having very short legs, but they don't. They have totally average length legs that are kind of wrapped in a pencil skirt of fat. That's what you want to think about it. So imagine if your bellies kind of consumed all the way like to your knees and below, kind of creating a bit of a pencil skirt. It'd be hard to walk. You'd walk like a penguin. But damn, your thighs would be nice and warm, right? And that's really what they're doing. That's their adaptation. So they have this like, it's not like it's a fold that comes up. It like their whole body just like goes
Droops.
over top, of their legs and their thighs. And the thigh muscles are huge and really important, right? So you want to keep those extra warm, especially if you live in the Antarctic. What is exposed then is just the like, I kind of feel like it's kind of steampunky, right? Like just the tendons and the bare minimum of the muscles required in order to keep the feet moving. That's what's kind of left outside of the pencil skirt of fat. And then the temperature of the feet is remarkably cold.
This system, let's give a shout out to evolution, because wow,
yeah,
kind of amazing,
right? So it's this intricate relationship between the arteries and the veins, okay, such that the heat from the artery is transferred to the vein as it's moving up the body. And therefore, as you move kind of down towards the feet, everything gets much, much colder, right? So it's a way of like passing the heat on to the incoming veins that are deoxygenated, just as it's about to go back into the core. And then cold blood is circulating in the feet, right? Both the arterial and the vein blood is quite cold. And it's a way of conserving the heat that's going back that's going back up into the body with the veins, so that the vein temperature doesn't cool the core.
It's amazing. And as a evolutionary biologist, it's always one to me where I think about, what did intermediate steps look like?
Yeah.
Because how do you get this kind of entwining of the warm, away flowing arterial blood? And the thing is, evolution has come up. These are some physical restraints, it's a physical sets of laws that countercurrent exchange just increases frequency because you've got two alternately flowing paths. And evolution comes up with this in a number of different ways. Here for heat, in other environments, it does it for how venous flow and water flow in the gills of certain aquatic invertebrates have evolved to increase the efficiency. And so it's a heat, but it's an efficiency adaptation that is brilliant, effective, and simple.
Yep. Cool.
And I wish we had it.
Okay, so multiple, species that are living in these cold environments that have some elements of them, and it is quite remarkable. So that's called regional heterothermy. We've thrown that at you before. Regional just means areas, like within a whole. Hetero meaning multiple, thermy meaning temperature. So there are regions that have multiple temperatures within the body. Okay, that's where that.
So if you're in an environment where you have a hard time regulating your body temperature, you're feeling thermy.
You're feeling thermy.
I'm feeling a little thermy. I need a blanket.
Okay, so here we go. So let's take a look. We're going to use a gull instead of a penguin, but it's the same principle, right? So we start with, so birds have a freaky high body temperature, about 39 degrees. Which is a lot more than us. But anyway, so imagine we're just at the top of the leg, it's 32 degrees, and because the heat is being passed on kind of prematurely, like before the arterial blood deoxygenates necessarily, right? So it's still arterial, but it's getting colder and colder, and it's passing the heat on to the veins that are going back up into the body. We see this temperature gradient that really does bring us very, very close to freezing, if not to freezing.
Yep, it's kind of amazing. I got to say, after your description of the pencil skirt and the penguin, this looks like this looks like I'm shocked to see the exposed knees of the gull, and it looks like some kind of a scandalous mini skirt. It's like, pull your body down over your knees, my dear.
Oh dear. Okay, good. So this is called the counter-current heat exchange. Counter, opposite, current, movement. Heat exchange system.
It's amazing.
Bananas. Or, if you want to keep a penguin warm, you can knit it a sweater, which some people think is an actual thing. But really, it's just a way of raising money for oil spills, which we should definitely support. Not the oil spills.
Yeah, it's
the raising money.
Solving oil spills, not raising money for oil spills.
Penguins don't need sweaters, though. But whatever. Gets the money. I don't care.
Now, we don't have this kind of a system, right? And would that we could. Dr. Jacobs and I both could tell you stories about being immersed for long periods of time in very cold water. Mine were always intentional, and they're not life-threatening. In that, in Southern Ontario or in Eastern Ontario, I used to paddle all year long, -20, air temperatures of -20 and 30, but fast water still flowing. And the thing that I learned, and that's where this kind of an older picture is taken from, but what you learn very quickly is that's a physical shunting and a physical kind of a mechanism, the countercurrent heat exchange. But what we have is what's shown in this graph here, which is the body kind of temporally shutting things off to say, okay, you keep insisting on putting your hands in this very, very cold water and keeping them there. We're going to shut you down for a second. It's like a timeout, and we're going to stop the blood for a bit. We're just going to we're going to maintain the sanctity of the core, and we're going to shunt blood away from the extremities that you keep sticking in this cold water. And the thing that you had to remember as you were out there, choosing to be out there on the water, was that it was coming back. And if you could wait that 5 to 10 minutes, you were all of a sudden going to get this gorgeous pulse of warmth. And then it was going to fall down again. And then it was going to come up again. And so it was really just a process of making good decisions in the meantime. And then your body would share that warmth with you again to keep your fingers going. And of course, this is time limited. This graph is not from people looking at kayakers or canoeists, but it is of fishers. Like tuna fish, like the fishers on big open decks in the Atlantic, say, that are just cold all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So, just to show you a little bit about like integrating the
Why is that a green screen?
I don't,
Sorry.
No, it's just a bad graphic, I think.
Okay.
And I was trying to like put together different individuals, and anyway.
I'm intrigued by it now because I want to put them in like New York. I'd be like Times Square. Like, this is the penguins going to Times Square.
Okay. Yeah. So what we want to do is just kind of like show you how these adaptations kind of work in terms of the biological levels of organization, right? So we have for penguins, and you're trying to fill out that polar bear chart with the acute and chronic and evolutionary and the levels of organization for adaptations to the cold. So this is what like it might look like for penguins. Penguins do have an adaptation to the cold at the population level. And it's called huddling. So they get all together. One can't do it by itself, so it's at the population level because it requires multiple individuals, right? And usually the whole colony get together and huddle together in order to keep warm, right? So then, at the organism level, we have lots and lots of adaptations, including being very big, right? So Antarctic penguins are bigger than their, sort of more northern cousins. They have shorter beaks, right? They're reducing the sizes of their appendages. They have shorter tails often. They have shorter fins or flippers here on the side. They have tons and tons of fat. These things are just really bulky, which is delightful. So at the organism level, tons of things. And then at the organ system level, we also see these adaptations like this regional heterothermy or these countercurrent exchange systems. And so that's how you can kind of move from biological level to level and identify the relevant adaptations. Cool?
I like it.
Yay. So you can then put that in a table. And this is what it might look like. We'll give this to you as we always do with all of the slides, so we're not going to like walk through it. My brain totally gravitates towards those question marks. So imagine we're writing some true or false questions about reasons or plausible reasons for why there would be a question mark in the box. Mm-hmm. Why might there be a question mark in the box? If you want to pop it in the chat or write on the screen somewhere, what would be and there are like multiple possibilities, right, for why there would be a question mark in the box.
Let's do another question from the chat in the meantime.
Okay.
Are saturated fats more common in the cold or in cold environments?
No.
Or is it just a thing that it can go either, you can make them?
No, I don't. That's a really good question about like just looking at like food web level.
Yeah. You could do it. You could ask
fatty
it, right?
acids. Yeah, you could ask that question. I would say that there are probably more important competing variables that the absolute, like the overall proportion of fatty acids within an ecosystem. But sure, we could look at it.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay.
Not enough evidence to come up with a firm conclusion.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes, that is one. So maybe we just don't know about that adaptation yet. Good. What other things?
Are we missing anything in the bottom right corner?
Nope. What other reasons might exist?
Has not been studied yet in depth.
Yep, absolutely. Haven't been studied.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? Any other reasons for why those might be blank? No multi-generational penguin sociology studies. I love it. Contradictory evidence. Yep. Acute changes hard to monitor. Ooh. Super good.
There's possibly no effect.
Yep.
Need homeostasis has been written on the screen.
Yep.
A lot of energy is required for acute molecular changes, which is not worth it.
Yeah, super good. Super good. So, yeah, you're doing great. So, either we haven't found it yet or it doesn't exist, right? It's totally fine for there not to be an adaptation at every single level of organization, right? Especially if you think about things like polar bears. Mm-hmm. They're territorial, sort of. They're huge territories, but they don't really hang out in a population, right? So it would be kind of silly to expect there to be population adaptations to the cold if they don't socialize. So there could be that. There's lots and lots of different sort of possibilities. Don't feel like you always have to fill in all the boxes, right?
So could the evolutionary adaptation at a population be that they live in colonies?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, cool. Super good. So this is not an exhaustive list. It's just a list to kind of get
and a great final comment that it might depend on other variables like age and sex, life
really
history,
good.
stage, and sex. Yeah.
Really good.
Often forgotten.
Yeah.
So great for you for remembering.
Excellent. Wonderful. Well done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool. Now we're going to shift gears again because
we're into the final gears.
It's the final
countdown. I had to change keys, sorry.
Okay,
because
cool.
I would have had to be very loud to
Great.
reach that.
Okay, so this is kind of a review of all the things you've seen this before. Where in the world are we going to see the greatest change in average temperature? And now what we want to do is throw at you the why. And tell us why there. Why the Arctic? Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Aaron. Super.
Somebody show me some tropical mountaintops.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. Super. Good. Yes. Okay.
Albedo right off.
Yeah.
Super.
Okay. Wonderful. Yeah, it has a lot to do with albedo for sure. What we're seeing is actually, if you take a look at the data, what we're seeing is lots and lots of change going on in the Arctic here. And then lots and lots of change going on here in the peninsula of Antarctica. Less change, but oh my gosh, is it like ramping up? happening sort of on the internal part, the big continent here. Okay, so albedo is what it is. So the idea is that you have this like rapid warming in places where the kind of the color of the background changes. So in the Arctic, the average ice thickness is only just a few meters. It's not a lot, but it is extensive. But if you increase the air temperature by just a few degrees, within a very short amount of time, that relatively small amount of ice or snow can melt, right? And then once you have that transition from this very sort of sparkly and shiny surface to this surface that absorbs heat, it then sort of ramps up the heating even more, okay? In Antarctica, the thickness of the ice sheet the average thickness is about 2.5 kilometers. The maximum thickness is just over 4 kilometers thick of the Antarctic ice sheet. Like it's just bananas to try to understand what that means. It means that it's going to take a really long time to change that sort of color of the background. But in the peninsula, on that little part that sticks out into the Southern Ocean, the average thickness is a lot less. And so already we're starting to see the same type of warming as we do in the Arctic, because they are kind of similar with respect to the amount of ice that was already there. So that's kind of why it has a lot to do with physical properties, but it's really important to understand. And all of this applies to elevation. Because it's this change in the absorbing qualities of the surface, from the sparkly reflective to the super absorbent, that will cause these rapid warming.
And if albedo, if it's bringing back too many bad memories from high school, or explanation is too esoteric at those scales, you've seen it.
Yeah.
If you've walked around and seen something like that, which is a leaf melting into the ice. The ice under that leaf melts much more rapidly because of the dark color of the leaf itself.
Yeah.
And so those leaf prints in our hockey rink, which are the bane of my existence at the end of our skating system, I think about climate change whenever I'm making ice out there, for a bunch of reasons, but
that's right.
Like whether or not we'll be able to do it, and how many years until we can't do it, but also in terms of the localness of the albedo effect of those individual leaves.
So now moving on, in terms of alpha diversity, where are we going to see the greatest decrease in alpha diversity? Super. It's okay. Yep. Good. Good. And you can go pretty much all the way across there if you want. That's totally fine. Thank you, Sierra. Yep, for sure. In the warmest places, right?
And that's so my other shout out again for tropical mountaintops, because they're getting hit on both sides. Highly alpha diverse, high species richness, and then also the same effects of that we just talked about.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, these things are already like warm adapted, and if it gets even warmer, it's not going to be helpful. It's not going to be good, and there's not going to be anything that can kind of take over. Right?
And a good point about the islands that will no longer be islands.
That's right. Yeah. Good. Super. You're doing great. Next. Where are we going to see the greatest increase in alpha diversity?
Lethbridge?
Cool.
Yep.
Yes. Super. Yep. And you're good to bring it over to the whole sort of circumpolar area. Very good. Yeah. Super good. So increase in alpha diversity. Oh, so there's an increase in biodiversity. That must be a good thing, right?
Well,
not so much. And ask the people who live there. There are all sorts of concerns and studies, interesting interactions that have been documented, real worries, right, in terms of black flies moving north, in terms of folks, not having a vocabulary in their language for the things that are showing up. So there's like an evolving language as a result of changing alpha diversity. There's not a lot of really good things to say about an increase in alpha diversity in the sort of circumpolar regions of the planet. I hope that there would be some interesting or good stories. I just haven't come across any yet. But yeah, folks are worried, and rightly so. So yeah, there's all sorts of things. And this is like a southern problem, like relative to the north. This is a southern problem that's being imposed on communities. Rather than really, I mean, it's so not their fault in terms of like global warming and the crisis and everything. And so, yeah, I see an arrow. I'm going to go and see what it's, oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Good. I'm not quite sure what the green arrow means. If you have any questions, please let us know. But this is great. Yeah, thank you. Ushuaia also increase in alpha diversity. Super good. Okay. So, if you remember, I'm sure we asked you this question a while ago, or maybe we didn't, because students, it's funny, the way that the answers to these questions have changed over time.
Through time.
Yeah, we've seen
directionally selected.
Yeah, we should check it out actually, to see, because we've really, like, when we started teaching this course years and years and years ago, it was really about asking students if they believed in climate change, if that was like a thing. And many students talked about how they want to understand it scientifically and study it that way to like figure out if it's happening. And I think there's an increasing argument for why, yeah, I mean, the science is fine, we should continue doing it, but we really need to ramp up action and like political action and, justice action, because we're not being affected equally or equitably. And so there's a real shift, I think, in the students too, and the way in which they want to engage with the climate crisis, which is great and healthy and exciting. And oh my goodness, please somebody like be interested in it.
Two things. There's like the Greta acceleration, or Greta not causing it necessarily to some degree, but also just representing a change. And then also there's the analogy that a friend of mine, an 80-year-old at the other end of the age spectrum, an 84-year-old friend of mine says with regard to these questions, there's a fire in the kitchen. Don't rush to me with a thermometer to tell me the temperature. Oh yeah, it is. It's quite bad. It's like, bring the fire department.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, good. Okay. So the predictions aren't amazing. And the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change keeps on revising them, and has some very smart things to say about what's happening, and they're not excited about the future. So we're looking at some potentially really important changes, and we are seeing the effects of it now. So it's not just like a future problem; it's a now problem. And our generation has a lot to apologize for. My parents' generation has like a ton to apologize for, and we need to do something, or there will be a continuation of what we're seeing so far. And what we're going to see in the Arctic is not only an increase in alpha diversity, but probably more importantly is this increase in beta diversity, that there will be these funnel changeovers, right? These complete extinctions of things and the invasion of things moving north. So it's not just that, oh yeah, the polar bears are going to get along with the grizzly bears and it's going to be fine. Not so much, right? There's going to be a turnover of species, which will fundamentally change all of these places, and all of the ways that people interact with their environment. Okay?
Yep.
Good.
We're kind of out of time.
Yeah. We are, and we're grateful to all of you.
Yeah. Go check those out.
Yeah. We put together some playlists for you if you want to use it for studying music or anything. They're all happy songs from a very good representation of artists across Canada. So yeah, check it out. The playlist is yours if you would like it. And with that, we will say that's all, folks.
And thank you.
Thank you.
If you're interested, we'll be back here on Monday to talk about career paths, opportunities.
Yep. And I'll be around on Wednesday to answer questions,
yeah.
right? But
so
yeah, great.
Thank all of you. This has been a crazy year, but
Take
you've
care.
done well. What did the kids do today?
What did they do?